Hi, my name is Niels Jansen. I am a 45-year-old transgender gay man. I am the first and so far only transgender man to ever win a national Mr. Gay title. So my experience competing Mr. Gay Europe, that was intense. There were really good things. There were things that I couldn't handle. The great part was the feeling of being a part of a group of men. Now, I know that might seem strange to some people, but I've never actually had that feeling of, camaraderie with other men before. Because I've never been to summer camp with all the boys. I've never been part of a group in that way. We had one bathroom for 7 gay men. So there was not a lot of space for us. And I remember one morning I was, standing in front of a mirror, I was shaving, and just having a conversation with everybody. And that was just such a novel thing to me, because I've never done it before. I know it sounds strange, but I've never been, being able to stand comfortably, shaving, talking to somebody, just doing my thing. I've just never done it. So that was the great part. It was being part of something. One of the missions of Mr. Gay Europe is that people need to get to know other people from other places and learn how they live. And that was really good. I mean, people did a lot of different kinds of activism. One guy did HIV activism, another did he was an athlete, so he did, being out in sports. Somebody did caring for the elderly LGBT community, and there was just a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different ways of doing things. And that was, the connections you make, that's the important part for me. When I came home, I kind of had a little bit of a breakdown. I barely remember what happened in the weeks after the competition. My memory is just blanking out on me, and that never happens. It was very, very overwhelming to me. It was really hard, and it was too hard for me, actually. And one of the things that happened this fall was I was diagnosed with ADHD, which makes a lot of sense why I couldn't handle that many impressions, right? Sometimes I have the energy to do activism and do things, but other times I'm just surviving, basically. It's like basic stuff I have to focus on. I can't do anything else. And then sometimes I can do things. So what this happened was that I reached the limit of what I could do, and I kept pushing, and then bad things happened, basically. Looking back at it, it was still worth doing because I know myself a lot better now. I know what my limits are, I know what I can do and what I can't do. And I think you kind of have to push those boundaries sometimes. You kind of have to, take a chance and do something. A lot of the things about activism is that you're expected to live up to a certain norm. You're expected to be able to organize things, which is a problem when you have ADHD and pretty much can't organize anything. The way you do activism, the way I do activism, I thought a lot about that. And I'm kind of good at being doing something like this, getting up and being Mr. Gay Denmark and, making a statement like that. But I'm not like the person that can structure like a campaign or, organize pride or anything like that. I just can't do it. I want people to know that it's okay to not fit into the expectations that people have for you. You can be Mr. Gay Denmark and be trans. You can do that. And you can also have ADHD and still do activism. You don't have to do activism, prescribed by a formula. You can take breaks. You're allowed to do that too. You're allowed to take care of yourself. It's actually the most important part is that you take care of yourself. I think a lot of people are struggling with this in the trans community is that, there's so much wrong. There's so much wrong in this world. We're not being treated right medically. There's so much discrimination and just poverty, and people don't get access to treatment. And there's so many things that are wrong that it's just overwhelming. And I think that what I've learned from, being out is that we actually did make a difference, just us trans people. We got people to listen to us. I don't know how we did that because people weren't listening to us. We made a lot of changes. We made a lot of progress. You can do that even though you're struggling with your mental health. And even if you're being discriminated. There's a lot of things I wish people knew more about, but just related to being an activist is that it doesn't always look the way you think it's gonna look. When you think of an activist, you think of somebody, in a demonstration or somebody who's organizing things, organizing pride, or organizing a campaign or something. And that's not something that everybody can do. There's this saying that just being alive for a trans person is an act of activism, just existing in this world. There's discrimination, and we're not, getting the proper medical treatment, and just moving on and surviving and existing in this world is an act of activism. And sometimes that's all you can do, and that's okay. It's important that people, even though that the world is completely overwhelming and there's so many things that are wrong, and it's just, for me, it's just complete, I don't know, I can't fix this. And it hurts that you can't fix it. It can get really overwhelming, and you gotta remember that, just surviving it's good enough. Sometimes that's just good enough. And you have to take care of yourself. And for me, doing this is, I paid the price for it. I also feel that it was worth it because it was something that I could do. And I hope it's enough. I hope it did something. We don't live in the world that we need to be living in right now as trans people, as LGBT people, just in general. But we can still make changes. It still matters what you do. I was a Mr. Gay Denmark winner, and I was first runner-up in Mr. Gay Europe. I still think that the competitions sometimes focus on things that they believe makes a good activist. And I think we need to do a queer thing on that norm, because there's a norm for activism, and I think we need to expand what an activist is and what they can do. And it's not just about having a lot of followers on social media, and it's not just about those things. It's also about somebody has to do all kinds of different things. You walk into it and you encounter this ideal that you have to try to live up to in order to do well. And I would like to question that ideal. I would like to see a much, broader scope of people doing stuff like this. I would like to see somebody else with a disability. I would like to see all kinds of people that, are not academically strong, but might be strong in other ways, right? I would like to see this community be much more open, much more, diverse in a lot of different ways, because we're in a minority because of gender identity or sexual orientation, but within this minority, there's a lot of different kinds of people, and we all have our own experience, we all have our own perspective, and all of those are valuable. And it doesn't mean that, when you look at who's the community leaders here, if you think in your mind, who's the leaders of your community, what kind of people are they, and do we celebrate? We should celebrate them because they do a lot of hard work. Are we forgetting some people? Are we forgetting some people that are significant in other ways? And I'd like to kind of question that. What makes a good activist? I'd like people to think about that and what activism is, because we're all coming from different points. Looking back at it now, I wish I'd been more insisting on doing things my own way.